So as explained in the previous video, rixpress is a package that allows you to build reproducible pipelines, and you can define steps in both R and Python. And so I'm going to show you an example here that uses R and Python to build a document, a Quarto document, where some steps are R code, some steps are Python code. So let's take a look at the folder structure. So you see we have this script can-env. So this is the R script that will help me define my environment where the pipeline is going to run. And then we have here another script that defines the pipeline itself. And we also have some helper functions that I defined. There's some user-defined functions. So the R functions go into functions.r and the Python functions go in functions.py. And so the goal here is to build this MD source document, so the document that is in MD source, to compile that in one step. So because I don't have R in the system, I'm going to use this command that is in the README of Rix and rixpress to drop into this temporary Nix shell that makes R available to me. And from here, I'm going to just source my script to generate the environment. So this is going to create this default.nix file. Now let's take a look. Here it is. And now this file, it's this Nix file that defines my reproducible environment. So now I can just build it. So it might take a little bit of time here because it needs to essentially download some packages and stuff, but should go fairly quick. So if you are lost right now, watch my previous video, click in the link in the description, or click the card that you are seeing right now, where you have a bit more context, a bit more introduction in what is Rix, what is rixpress, and what is Nix. So now I'm in the environment, so I can drop into R, and now I can build my pipeline. But maybe before that, let's take a look at it. So you see, I have this JPEG here, right? And I have this read image function, okay, that is going to read the file. We can then take a look at it later. And then I have some Python steps. So rxppy defines Python steps. And here I have this Python expression. So this is purely Python expression. So you see here I use numpy dot. This is because by default, when you are going to use Python, the Python packages are just going to be imported with the command import numpy and not import numpy as np, but we can correct that. I'm going to show you later. Here I transfer data from Python to R, okay, using this py to R function. Now I have some R steps using a user-defined function that is in the functions.r. And here again, I have some gender distribution that is computed using a user-defined function, again in the functions.r. Here plot, etc., etc. And here I built this Quarto document. Okay, so I built this Quarto document, and using that, I can now, if I compile that, I will have access to, I think it's going to be HTML file in this case. So I define my list here of derivations, and then I build my pipeline. Or rather, in this case, I don't build it directly. And the reason I don't do that is because I still want to correct here this import statement. So as I explained just 1 minute ago, by default with rixpress, the Python packages are going to be imported using the very simple import numpy or import pillow statement, right? The package is called pillow. It's going to just use import pillow. That's automatic. But in this case, it's not going to work because what I want is actually from the pill submodule, I want to import image. So using adjust import, I can adjust the Python import statements. So if, for example, the other one here, the numpy one that I had at the beginning over here, yeah, this one, I could also adjust the import and say, instead of import numpy as np, right? And so once I'm done with this, this will create my my pipeline.nix, and then I can build it. So let's try it. Let's get out of of here. Let's start R, and let's just source the pipeline script. In this case, it went very quickly. The reason it went quickly, it's because it just generated this pipeline.nix file, okay, which is the Nix definition of the pipeline. right? And we don't need to look at it. And now if I want to build it, I actually need to call rxp make, and this is going to build the actual pipeline. It's going, for the Python bits, it's going to use Python. For the R bits, it's going to use R. For Quarto, it's going to use Quarto to compile the document and so on. And it's really powerful because you can very seamlessly mix these two languages, right? Even if you are just using Python, 100% Python, you could still use rixpress, right? Because you can just define Python steps, and you can have this pipeline-based workflows instead of these notebook-based workflows, which also have a lot of problems, I find. So let's take a look. If I look at rxp inspect, because I zoomed in for the video, we don't see much, but I can now take a look at these different things. So let's try, for example, Gorilla Pixels. What is that? Let's see what happens. So if I do rxp read, this will try to read the object in my session. So you see it's just the pixels of an image, so it's just some coordinates, I guess, and some I guess these are the grayscale from 0 to 55, I guess. So that's it. And if I have some other, let's try again, some other objects. Let's take a look. Yeah, let's go with raw coords, for example. So these are the raw coordinates in R. So yeah, this is just an array. Maybe let's take a look at, so what was the name of the compiled document? Let's try to take a look at the document. So you see it's doc. So let's do rxp read doc and let's see what happens. So in this case, because the document is an HTML file, and also because there is a subfolder with it, we don't see, right, it doesn't get opened. So in this case, what we need to do is we need to open the HTML file. Because this is in the Nix store and is a bit tedious to go over there, what we can do is we either open this link directly in our web browser. Well, this is a possibility. Or what we can do as well is we can do rxp copy doc, and this will copy the contents of the Nix store to a folder called pipeline output. So now we can navigate to pipeline output, and we can open we can open our HTML over there, like xdg open source .html. Of course, if you're doing that, let me just grab my web browser. If you're doing that in a IDE, then of course it's going to look a bit better. And so this is the image, the original image. Right, and this image was then, read. The pixels, the individual pixels were read using the read image function that is defined in our functions.py, and then you have all the steps, the cleaning steps, and then you recreate here the plot. You recreate the gorilla, and you also recreate here the gender distribution and so on. And if you want to know more, what the hell this project is, there's a blog post that I can link from Isabella Velasquez. So this is inspired by our blog post, and actually the blog post is itself, a re-implementation of the results of the paper, right? And the paper, you can, find the paper over there. Actually, if you take a look here, the source code is here. Basically, there's this rixpress demos repository that I will link in the description that has all the examples, right? That you can take a look at to learn about rixpress. Now, the other thing I want to show you is as in this example here, for example, now I need to move my browser a little bit. This example here, you have this Py to R and R to Py functions to transfer data from R to Python, but you can also, instead, what you can do is you could also use, where is this? Yeah, you could just, serialize the data in a format that is common to both languages, in this case JSON or CSV, that works as well. And so here you see the Py object here, this one, which is a polars data frame that is being filtered. I serialize this, maybe let me zoom in a bit. I serialize this to JSON using this user-defined function that you find here. And then I can immediately pass that to a R step by using then the unserialized function option, and using the from JSON function of the JSON Lite package. And so I can, transfer data seamlessly if I have a common, data format that I can use, JSON, CSV, Parquet, many others, I guess, could be used for that. So maybe the last thing I want to show you is here in this repository, you have many examples. Some are not entirely complete yet, but most of them are. What is also important to understand is that even though rixpress is a R package, even if you are a 100% Python data scientist, you can still use it to define Python pipelines. So I think this is quite interesting, because I was looking for pipeline libraries in Python, and there are many, but there are none that worked and looked like the targets one from R, which I really like. And so rixpress is in a way perhaps an alternative for Python that mimics the targets library as much as possible. So I hope you find rixpress interesting. If you give it a shot, do let me know how it goes, and give me your feedback. See you next time.